Good evening, fellow students. I'm Cheryl Bliss, a student at KIU Kampala International University, LLB, Year 1, Semester 1. Today we are going to discuss about hierarchy of courts. And our question is, discuss the hierarchy of courts and the jurisdictions in the legal system of Uganda. As you look at the question, what comes into your mind? What comes into your mind is you're looking at the court system in Uganda. Before you carry on, you first have to know how to define what a court is. That's our first step, what a court is. Now, a court is an independent body meant to adjudicate issues by the law. And when you talk about a court, it doesn't mean that it's only being situated in one place. When we say a court, it means that a court can be anywhere at any time for as long as the judicial officers are present at that place. That's when we call it a court. And looking at the Constitution of the 1995 amended Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, court system is found under Article 129. Article 129 of the 1995 Constitution of Uganda. And it talks about the composition of the hierarchy of courts in Uganda. Looking at it, we find that in the composition, the first appellate court of Uganda is the Supreme Court. Under Article 130 of the Constitution. Then, the second court of Uganda is the Court of Appeal. We have the Court of Appeal, followed by the High Court, by the Constitutional Court. We have the Constitutional Court. We have the High Court. Mentally, when we are looking at the composition of courts in Uganda, in the Constitution we only find that we have the most appellate courts in Uganda, though in practice we find that there are some other courts which include the Magistrates Court, and other courts which we shall talk about later. Now, looking at the Supreme Court stipulated under of the Republic of Uganda, it's the most appellate court in Uganda. It is presided by the Chief Justice, and it handles cases from the Court of Appeal. Those are appeals. But it can also sit as the first original jurisdiction court. That's where we find that the presidential petition elections, they can go to the Supreme Court as an original jurisdiction. There are two different things. A high court can sit only for the original jurisdiction. That's when it comes to the presidential petitions, and receives appeals from the high courts. Some of the examples of the cases that I can give you is, for the case of the original jurisdiction, we have the presidential petition of 2006. That's Chiza Bestia versus Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. That's the first one. Chiza Bestia versus Yoweri Museveni, 2006. That's when the Supreme Court can sit as an original jurisdiction. Got me right? I've said that the Supreme Court can sit for an original jurisdiction when it comes to the presidential petitions. We have a case law, that's Chiza Bestia versus Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, 2006. Then we also have Kyagulanyi versus Museveni, that's the 2021 elections. It's Kyagulanyi 7. That's the 2021 elections. That's when the Supreme Court can sit as an original jurisdiction. And when it's receiving appeals from the Court of Appeal, we have a case law of Susan versus Susan and 400 others. Versus the Republic of Uganda. That's when it sits as a court of appeal, as an appeal court received from what? The Court of Appeal. It only handles 2 cases. Then we come to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal is under Article 134 of the Republic, Article 134 of the 1995 Constitution as amended. Now, the Court of Appeal is presided by the Deputy Chief Justice. This understanding of the Constitution, that's when it can sit as the constitutional law as stipulated under Article 137 of the Constitution. The Court of Appeal receives appeals from the High Court. It has unlimited jurisdiction. It sits as, when holding appeals from the High Court, it sits on a bench of 7. Unlike the Supreme Court, it is a bench of 5, not less than an even number. Now, when I say 6, it means it shouldn't be less than 5, right? Yes. So, when we are talking about the Court of Appeal, it receives what? The cases from the High Court. That's when it's being called an appeal. An appeal is something you're not satisfied with the judgment of the first court. That's when you proceed to another court looking for more satisfaction. Then we come to the High Court. The High Court is also the most appellate court under Article 138 of the Constitution of Uganda as amended. It has unlimited original jurisdictions. The High Court is presided by the principal judge. You get it? It's the principal judge now this time around, not the Deputy Chief Justice. So here the High Court has unlimited jurisdiction. It has divisions. When I'm talking about the divisions, I mean it has several divisions like the Civil Division. We have the Criminal Division. We have the Commercial Division. And very many others, including the Land Division. The Land Division. We have the Family Division. Since the High Court has unlimited jurisdiction, it can sit as the Family Division when it's sitting on cases concerning families. It can sit as a Land Division when it's handling cases concerning land. What do we mean by land? I mean trespasses. When someone trespasses into your land, you go to the High Court and you're being told to go to the Division of Land. That's when it can sit as a high court of what? The Land Division. You have judges that side. So it has very many divisions. That's why we say that the High Court has unlimited jurisdiction because it has several divisions and it handles cases from different parts of what? The country. It doesn't have anything to do with the geographical, what should I say now? Let me say the geographical jurisdiction. It is unlimited. It handles all the cases. Now, it can also handle cases from the magistrate's court. If you're not satisfied with the judgment of the chief magistrate, you can proceed and go to the High Court. It only tolerates cases from the High Court. And it can also have an original jurisdiction when it comes to going to High Court. You cannot go to the Magistrates Court when it comes to parliamentary elections. Automatically, you have to go to the High Court. From the High Court, if you're not satisfied, then you get to proceed to the what? To the Court of Appeal. Then, still looking at the High Court. The High Court is presided by the principal judge, and the principal judge helps the deputy chief justice to take care of what? The High Court. The High Court can also sit as a constitutional what? Court, and it can send its cases to the upper court of the Court of Appeal. Since when it's handling cases and it realizes that this case requires the interpretation of the Constitution, it automatically sends it to the Constitutional Court. So meaning, for a person to reach the Constitutional Court, it must pass through the High Court and gets to the Constitutional Court to be seen whether it requires things to do with the interpretation of the Constitution. Then, I forgot one thing. In the Constitutional Court, I forgot to give you the case of Semogere Fathers, the Republic of Uganda. When you're looking at this, we have the case of Semogere Power. Semogere Power. Fathers, the Republic of Uganda. That's a case law on the court requiring the interpretation of the Constitution. Then, when you're being told to discuss the hierarchy of courts, since when you're looking at Article 129 of the Constitution, it speaks of the composition of courts in Uganda. So when we are looking at it, we find that the composition of the courts in Uganda include the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, the Constitutional Law, and the High Court. Those are the most appellate courts in Uganda. Now, to add extra mile, we can also look at the Magistrates Court. Now, the Magistrates Court, we find it under Section 161 of the Magistrates Court Act. We find it at the Magistrates Court Act. It speaks of what? The Magistrates Court. We look at the Chief Magistrate. So we were talking about the Magistrates Court. In the Magistrates Court, we have the Chief Magistrate, we have the Magistrate grade 1, then we have the Magistrate grade 2. We have the Magistrate grade 2. The Chief Magistrate he's the head of the Magistrates Court. Actually, when I talk of the Chief Magistrate has control over the Magistrate grade 1 and the Magistrate grade 2. Now, in the Chief Magistrates Court, it handles both civil and criminal cases. I'm saying it handles both civil and criminal cases, but it has, in the Chief Magistrates Court, it has geographical jurisdiction. When I mean geographical jurisdiction, the area of the scene, you're supposed to go to that corner area of the scene. You can, if you have a case here in Kampala, you cannot go to the court in Arua. Instead, you have to be in the court of what? Kampala. So what I'm trying to say, that in the Chief Magistrates Court, it has what? Geographical jurisdiction. Now, I was still talking about the Chief Magistrates Court. We had handles both civil and criminal cases, and it has a geographical jurisdiction. The area of the sea you're supposed to approach the court of that particular area. You cannot leave that area and you go to another area. Now we come to the magistrate grade 1. The magistrate grade 1 also has authority to adjudicate both civil and criminal cases, but with the knowledge of the magistrate grade 1. Then when we come to the magistrate grade 2, the magistrate grade 2 is just a diploma. How can I say? A diploma. Let me say, a person holding a diploma can be a magistrate grade 2. It's not a matter that the person has to be a lawyer. You get it? So even the chief magistrate grade 2, when looking at the issues to do with monetary issues, it only handles cases below 500,000, but anything more than that, it has no power to handle such cases. So the magistrate grade 2 receives cases from the local council. Then that's where we can look at other courts, the small courts, which include the land tribunals. We have the local councils, the local council courts. We have the local council courts. And in the local council courts, we have the LRC 5, the local council 5. We have the chairman LRC 3. We have the chairman LRC 2. Then we have the LRC 1. LRC 1, this is the local chairperson. LRC 1, that's the LRC 1. Now the LRC 1 takes care of a village. Then the local council chairperson takes care of what? A parish. You're getting it? Then when we come to chairperson 3, it takes care of a sub-county. A sub-county constitutes of the village and a parish. Then we call it a sub-county. That's the chairman LRC 3. Then when we come to the chairman LRC 5, the chairman LRC 5 is of a district. Now that is a district. You see, these things are chronological. From one step leads to the other. So if things fail from the chairman LRC 1, you have to go to the chairman LRC 2. From the chairman LRC 2, you go to the chairman LRC 5. Just like that, from bottom to the head. Same things applies to the court system of Uganda. The Supreme Court is the most appellate court in Uganda. All other lower courts are bound to follow the decisions of the Supreme Court. That's why it is the final results of the court system in Uganda. So when we are looking at all these other courts, they are bound to follow. When it comes to handling cases, they can still use the cases being held by the Supreme Court to guide them on how to judge other cases. That's when we look at the president. That's where we find that all the lower courts are bound to follow the decisions made by the High Court. And in Uganda, the Supreme Court is the most appellate court in Uganda, headed by the what? Chief Justice. So still looking at these other courts, after looking at the local council courts, we have the military courts. We have the military courts, which at times some people can confuse them with the court martials. They are two different things. We have the court martial and the military courts. Now, all these other courts are not being stated in the Constitution. Only in the Constitution, under Article 129, which speaks about the court system in Uganda, we find that it only speaks about the most appellate court in Uganda. And for today, our question is saying that the hierarchy of courts and their jurisdictions in the legal system of Uganda, meaning if we looked at this, we would have answered very well the question, but an extra mind to show that you're really aware and you know exactly what court systems are, because a court system is a body of independent judicials guided by the law, meaning you cannot really go to a court. You can sit somewhere with the law and the justices. That will be called a court system. So today, in our conclusion, we have to conclude that the Supreme Court is the most appellate court in Uganda, and all other lower courts are bound to follow the decisions made by the Supreme Court. I remain Cheryl Bliss, a student at Kampala International University. Catch you another time. Bye.